Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter. It's 11:30-ish here. Sorry, folks. It's always kind of tough finding the exact timetable here. Welcome to today's webinar event. We're here to talk about invoicing accounts receivable clients in Church Windows Accounting. We're going to work together for the next 20 minutes. If you click the little red arrow to the side of your webinar control panel there, it minimizes the control panel, allows you to get the full visual effect of the presentation. If you're using a single monitor, if you've got a dual monitor, just drag that control panel for GoToWebinar over to that second desktop again, just to get it out of the way. We are recording today's event. So the video of today's webinar event will be on our website, on the Support Center page at our website sometime within the next today or tomorrow. You can revisit this at any time at that point. The pages or the topic that we're using, the printed material, is taken from our Accounts Receivable Training Workbook, pages 4 through 10. You can find you can purchase the workbooks on the website under our training workbooks page. Let me see if I can't get that open and kind of show you where that is real quick before we get started on our topic. If we go up to our home page here and we go to the beginning menu, you'll see the option right here called Training Workbooks. You can purchase them there. You can download the PDF file and print them yourself. You can bundle them. There are bundles with other workbooks. There's all kinds of options there, but just an FYI, we do try to keep the webinars here in line, or use the workbook material wherever possible, just to help kind of folks get a through line for the software and how it works. Okay. If you have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar control panel. I'll do my best to keep an eye on those, and I am pretty good about repeating the questions so everybody understands what's being asked, and then we'll see what we can't do to get those answered. Sometimes questions you have to get pushed off to a support call, not because I don't want to answer it, but it's specific to your data, your setup, your chart of accounts, what have you. It's unique to you, and I can't answer that during the webinar event. All right, so let's go into Church Windows Accounting. So basically, Accounts Receivable, it's an add-on for Church Windows. It's not part of the default purchase, the software purchase of there. If you want to add on Accounts Receivable, you have to pay, I think it's an additional $100. No additional charge or change in your support cost to us annually. But to add on Accounts Receivable, you have to purchase that in order to get the license key for that, okay? But basically, Accounts Receivable, as page 4 on the workbook pages talks about, is where we invoice information to bill our customers. Okay, for churches, this is why this isn't a part of the standard software packages, because typically when churches are owed money, it's usually in the form of pledges, which we would then set up in our donations module. Accounts Receivable is typically used more commonly when a church is owed money from other sources, maybe a preschool or a daycare, if there's a number of rental properties that the church has and they're invoicing their rental customers, renters for that. They want to make sure they've got they know how much is owed, and then they can subsequently send statements accordingly. So we're going to be talking about the front end of the first of those two transactions, the invoicing process for Church Windows, okay, Church Windows Accounting. So, in our example, we're going to be talking about preschool tuition, excuse me. So, but the reasons why you set this up are entirely up to you. If the church is owed money, Accounts Receivable may prove helpful for you, okay? So when we click on Accounts Receivable right up here at the very top, hopefully everybody can see my pull-down menu there. I've got my 4 options, my invoice transactions, my collect transaction. I can print invoices, and I can subsequently print statements. We're going to be talking about invoicing and printing invoices. So when we go into Accounts Receivable, it opens up, it's essentially kind of the opposite of accounts payable, as opposed to the church paying money out, where the church is owed money in. And so Accounts Receivable shows on the top side of our balance sheet and in our chart of accounts under assets. So we're going to leave it as today's date occurred, okay? So when we click, there's a due date. If you've got a due date, by all means, enter that, okay? We would recommend it, okay? Then you would come down to your AR or client list, and when we click the down arrow, we have a list of current clients that we already have set up. I can choose one of those. If I wish to add a new client, I can do that right here by clicking the little plus sign right there. Let me draw an arrow there for that, little tiny arrow. And we click on, when we click on that plus sign, it opens up the add new accounts receivable, enter new accounts receivable client name, okay? So here I would type in the name of my new client. We're going to do John and Amy Wilson, okay? I can leave it at that if I'm okay with it, but if I click on the Add More button, notice it does expand that and allows me to add more information about that client, particularly, address, city, state, zip code, phone number, email information, any amount of lots of information that I can enter about those if I wish. So if I have an address for them, of course, I'm going to try to add that now. But if not, I can always go back in and add that later, okay? So we're going to leave it without that, and then we'll simply click OK. It assumes that because we're adding it, that's the client that we're going to be posting or adding or setting or posting our invoice for. You can go over here and enter transaction comments if you wish. Transaction comments are, of course, transaction comments that can appear whether I'm choosing the client account or the income account or expense account, whatever the debit or the credit, both accounts, any accounts in the transaction. If I have specific comments that I want to enter and only show next to, say, the income or expense, that's where I might use the line item comments here to the right, okay? Both of them are available to appear on the invoices or the statements, but I think by default the line item comments are what appear on the actual invoice, okay? Yeah, so as the page 5 talks about on our workbook is, if your clients are already entered in the system, you can find the receivable client in a number of ways. You can click the down arrow, as we see here, and choose them from the list. You can clear out the information that's in here by using the X clear out, and you can just start typing the name. But, if I go, oh, I'm not ready to record that invoice for John and Amy, I can just click the little red X or the X here to the right, and that clears that out. And I can just simply start typing the name of the next vendor or client that I'm wanting to find, okay? But no, we're going to go back to the Wilsons again. Sorry, bear with me here. I'm not sure why that didn't add those in there, folks. Give me a second here. I'm going to exit out of accounting and see if the software, if rebuilding the database will fix that for us here, because I know I added that. Okay, I'm a little puzzled by that. Let's try this again. John and Amy Wilson. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I canceled out of it. So once I click OK, it should be adding those there. Oh, I have added them twice. Okay, they are in the list. It doesn't matter in this case. Okay, so income account now, I can enter transaction comments, or I can wait until I enter my line item comments. So in this case, we're now going to choose preschool tuition. There's my income account. I'm going to enter the amount, and we'll say, under our line item comments, September 2019 preschool tuition, and then we clicked on Add to Batch. I can now either post this transaction, or I can continue to add other invoices for other clients in exactly the same manner. Okay, so if I type in preschool tuition, hit enter on the account, do the same thing, I can type in comments. I could have copied my comments from the other one so I could paste them in there. Okay, and I can just continue adding my clients invoice transactions to the batch in exactly the same way. Okay, notice I right-clicked over those comments and chose copy, allowed me to enter those. I can click on add to batch. Okay, so if I'm ready to post, I would choose post. If I'm wanting to save it and come back and post it later, I can do the save batch. Okay, if I want to edit an item, I can highlight it and either double-click on it or highlight it and click edit to move it back up to the top, and I can make changes to it and add it to my batch again. Okay. We're big fans of using the show running balance button here, folks. So in the upper right on page 6 there, it says click the show running balance here. What this allows us to do is to be able to see the effect of the transaction on all of the accounts in the entry before we post anything. So this minimizes mistakes. If I realize later on that I chose the wrong client or I entered the wrong amount or something, but we notice that it shows the current balance of all of the accounts, it shows the transaction effect and the adjusted balance. This simply helps minimize mistakes and problems that need to be corrected or fixed later. In this case, these look all good. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm happy with these. I can now click post on them, and it'll ask me if I want to print the report of the invoice transactions. I'm going to click no on that. Okay. I would close out of my show running balance. If I leave that open, it'll just open the show running balance window next time I come into invoice accounts receivable. Okay. All right. So again, I can, as the bottom of page 6 points out, I can continue adding invoices to the batch if I wish. I can save it, I can print it, or I can post it. Okay. Those are our options. Okay. So now on page 7, it talks about printing the invoices. So when I'm ready to now print those invoices, I would now go back up to accounts receivable under transactions in the top left and choose print invoices. Okay. Well, interesting. It takes a little bit longer than I expected. So I have a number of options that I have that I can do, here. What it does automatically is it does show any client that has an invoice that's outstanding. Okay. I can do select. It doesn't check them. It just includes any of them that have an invoice that's outstanding. Okay. Notice here on the left it shows check under print. So if you've got a number of those, you can do select all invoices. You can go down and randomly check them independently, but they will be collapsed in the list automatically. Okay. If I do for clients up here, it will allow me to search the list of clients that I have if I want to just select and print just one or selected invoices. I can also have it limit it or check or find those invoices or clients with invoices that have a due by date on them. Okay, that's again what makes that entering due date important, is it allows you to use this due by field here as well. Or I can choose it for date occurred. Okay, but by default it shows I can check, you can do show all invoices and check all of those. Okay. Basically it's just a way of being able to filter out or omit certain invoices while selecting others if you wish. Okay. But again, it can only find them when you enter what's required to do that. So again, if you don't have a due date entered, due by is ineffective for you. It won't work. Okay. But I'm sitting, in this case, I'm going to want to print both of these invoices for both of these clients, so checking both of them is perfectly okay. All right. Then when it comes up here to my invoice, my layout, we do have a simple invoice layout. Okay. If you wish to kind of customize that and change that on your own, you can use the Invoice Designer here to the right to actually open up and construct or design or make changes to your invoice to a layout that you wish that's more suited for you. Like one of the things I want to point out about it is if you want to add a logo or an image, you can. So if you've got a logo that you want to add into there, of course it will include all of the organization information on the invoice itself. Okay, we'll look at that momentarily. But if you want to add a logo or an image or a picture or something to that, you can absolutely do that by simply dragging and dropping that over there and putting that in there. and then you go up here to the upper right, and it allows you to browse to the image wherever that is, okay, and put that on there. I don't have anything to include here, so I'm not going to leave that, okay. But yeah, it's as simple as literally just coming in here and picking up and dragging fields around, okay. And what I recommend is going down to the preview button down here and looking at a sample invoice that we have built into the software, taking a little bit of time here, and it shows just a dummy list of transactions for a dummy client that we have built in here, and allows you to see those changes. You can toggle back and forth between the designer and the preview until the preview shows exactly what you're wanting, okay. And that's discussed at the bottom of page 9 is the designing the invoice to be able to kind of customize that, okay. If I did make changes to that, and like let's say I did want to bring over my logo into there and put that right here, okay, when I go to save it in the upper right here or close out of it, it allows me to enter a name for the layout. It won't let me overwrite the one called template simple invoice. I will have to give it a different name. Okay, so I would have to go ahead and change it. I at least have to take off the word template. Okay, and then once I click yes through that, it closes out, and notice it chooses your new name under your layout automatically. Okay, and it shows up in your list of invoices to choose. Okay, but once I've selected at least one client in the list, I do have the ability to use the current information for the church if that's who the organization name is. If not, I can edit that, or I can add new organization information on the right here by clicking the plus sign. Okay, so doing business as, so if your preschool or daycare is doing business as something other than the church name, you can absolutely do that. And I can add a global memo if I wish. Okay, otherwise I can add individual memos to each one of those clients if I want to. And then when I click print, it opens up and shows the description, the invoice date, the invoice number, due date if applicable, if I had one, but it would show absolutely the amount that they owe us, okay? Yeah, it's not a terribly complicated process, folks. It's just, kind of walking you through kind of some of the ins and outs of it here. So that is our topic for the day.